Talk about today. Today we shall talk about Bindrunes, historical correctness, and other nonsense that people come up with at random. When I say people come up with at random, I mean me, because I come up with shit at random. But I'm not the only one. First of all, we need to establish a thing about historical correctness. This applies specifically to the whole concept of like Viking tattoos and hand poking and all these things. Is Viking tattoos cool? Yes. Is hand poking cool? Yes. Is it historically correct? No, because we don't have archaeological evidence, which is required to make something historically correct. We have hints that it might be. We have messages coming in. We have indications from text sources, from medieval Middle Eastern scholars and stuff like that, that mentions that the Rus Vikings, even Fadlan mentions, the Rus Vikings that he met at the River Volga were tattooed from nail to neck, or rather painted skin, nail to neck kind of thing. That's not archaeological evidence. It's a bloody good hint, but it doesn't make anything a fact. Now that it is established how historical correctness and historical evidence kind of exists, we can go further down the fucking rabbit hole, where we shall find an angry old grumpy fucking badger in the form of Bindrunes, because Bindrunes has become a very big thing. Funnily enough, Bindrunes is sort of like a medieval and much later invention. Some of the favorite Bindrunes of the world were 18th century Icelandic stuff, not particularly Viking. Some things are very modern renditions where they've been mentioned in the text source. Those text sources would have been written in the Middle Ages, later than the Viking Age, and then some modern funky person decided that, oh, it must look like this, and added it to a manuscript. There's many things like that. That being said, we do know that some Bindrunes existed. They're usually quite small and used for specific purposes. My favorite is one that looks like a little tree, which is the Tivas rune, but three of the... it's a Christmas tree. That we believe has been used to make things like permanent and empower things to be strong and sturdy, because it tended to be put on things that were meant to last for a long time. So Bindrunes did exist in the Viking Age. We are absolutely certain about that, but not as prolifically as we imagine and pretend. I'm personally very guilty of spreading the concept of Bindrunes. I've sort of specialized in making them and putting them on people's skin with needles and just jamming into arms. But I also just paint them, draw them, and just use them in general, because I'm quite familiar with the runes, and I enjoy using them, and I enjoy making that into a form language of its own, which I named Sirun and made a whole system for tattooing out of many years ago, which is still lodged somewhere in my brain. Now, why is this a pet peeve of mine? Well, it's a pet peeve because people imagine things to be true when they read it on the internet. And this is where it all gets fun and flipped around a little bit. See, there's a Bindrune that I see getting tattooed all the time, and it's not the Aegis-Hjalmur, it's not the Vegvisir, it is the Berserker Bindrune. Chuggling, both you from the kitchen as well, Jakub. Thing is, it's from a computer game, so it's not historically correct, except it is, because it's a computer game and it was made by humans in the world. So there is some correctness to it, because all Bindrunes are made up. Language is made up. History is also sort of a made up concept, isn't it? It's just modern, and it's important to know that that Bindrune is particularly modern because it was in a fucking computer game. Now, recently I saw a gentleman make a post on it on the Instagram thing, where he was like, this is not a bloody Berserker Bindrune, this is, and then I think he actually made two different Berserker Bindrunes, one for Berserker and one for Ulfhethnar, like werewolf warrior things. And he's like, this is it. It's just as fucking made up. It's just as made up as hand poke tattoos are, or Nordic tattoos that I do myself. It's all made up. The whole, it must be historically correct, it's not that important. The important part is knowing if it is historically correct or not. Because when people blabber about it, there's this perpetuating cycle of stupidity where people just lap it up and inhale it as if it is the nectar of life. And it becomes misunderstood and stupid, and it degrades the actual historical content and culture behind it. And that part is like, that annoys me for a moment. To give you an example, the Berserker Bindrune that people think is historically correct, which isn't historically correct. Well, people don't know. They find it on the internet, they get it tattooed. The stuff that this gentleman just made, I really like his page and I really like his work. I just want to make sure that there's like some differentiation between this whole like what's historical correct, what's real, what's not. He makes a new design for Ulfhedna and for Berserker, and he goes, this is real, this is the right way of doing it, it has the right runes in it and stuff like that. Cool. This will be perpetuated by other people on the internet, because the internet is a giant maw, a monstrous machine where things get churned up and recycled and reused and made into other weird shit all the fucking time. So I give it 4 months, and then his work will have been redrawn and redone and re-tattooed on other people, and then people will start getting it tattooed and be like, this is a Viking Age Bindrune, it means Berserker. It's not true. It's a modern Bindrune by this shaman guy, and it does mean Berserker or Ulfhedna or whatever the fuck. That's fine, but it's modern, it's not historically correct. But people will think it's historically correct because that's how the internet works. Now, is that even important? Like at all? Is what I'm talking about important? It is not, because our lifespan is very short and brief, and we are a blip in human history, and even human history is a blip in universal history. So fuck that. Just be aware before you start ranting about historical correctness and all of these things about hand poking being that was the way the Vikings did it. I mean, the Vikings might have gotten tattoos done the same way that the Maoris do it with I was about to say engraving, carving, scarification with colour in it. We don't know. We have no idea. So let's not pretend. Let's just admit that we do not know this for a historical fact. We like the idea, and we get these tattoos because it's cool. We make Bindrunes because it's cool. It's fun. It's modern interpretation. There's nothing wrong with having artistic renaissance. That is fine. The whole Art Nouveau movement with Mucha and all of these fantastic people, artistic renaissance. It's fine. It's the rebirth of something that was once. If you look at Mucha's paintings, there's like Celtic ornaments fucking everywhere in it. Do we like it? Yes, it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. No one would bother to point fingers at it and be like, that's historically incorrect, because there's no historical content. Because there was no internet around when he was painting, was there? It's all... I blame the internet for everything. It is the source of all evil. I'm out. That was it. That was my rant. Fuck off.